Okay, do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I will.
Second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Reports. Good morning.
Good morning.
Arlington Valley Visitors Association is here, so Nancy, tell us about
I
it.
have to go there. I'm going to be here.
You probably have to go up here because they want to record it.
I have to go there.
Yes.
First, sorry I had to miss the last meeting, but I'm certainly here to let you know that we're just a little bit under timing. The guide comes out, it's delivered at noon today, so our 2014 guide to the Valley will be out, and you'll get it, if not before, in December's meeting. We had a highly successful haunted miniature golf this year. We had over 2,300 people come. So knock on wood, we're getting the expenses all taken care of, and I think this will be a lovely fundraiser for us. Other than that, it's been rather quiet. We're certainly getting to the end of the year, so we're working on budget. But I have been contacted by a tour company in the Midwest to be part of a New England holiday Christmas tour, bus tour. So I'm working on a tour with them. It started with 3 hours, it's now down to 2 hours. So you may see a little bus on December 4th driving around. There will probably only be one stop, but they've not yet made up their mind. So at least we have people certainly interested coming through, putting Connecticut back on the map and spending a little bit of time, because the Valley is the only part in Connecticut that this tour will take. They're going to be in New Hampshire, they're going to be outside of Boston, they're going to be in Vermont, and they're going to be here. So I thought that was rather interesting, and we're very pleased about it. The only other thing that we're working hard on is the Simsbury triathlon. So we're working on that.
How many copies of the brochure will you be printing this year?
50,000.
Wow.
And we had, to the best of my count, 750 left. That's pretty good. And we're already planning on when to try to start it for next year to see if we can get it out earlier.
Did you print 50,000 last year too?
60.
60.
Because the welcome centers are not taking what they want to take, or what they should take. We just dropped it to 50. And people are also going online and just printing the pages. And with your comments the last time I spoke before, we are in the midst of trying to redo our website. Hopefully we'll be able to have a downloadable version.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so, in the works.
Are you finding more hits going to the website now? Looking at how many people come.
Our hits are mid 6,500 a month.
But you've been seeing a gradual trend upward.
But I will also say that the phone calls are up this year. And this year, in the last 2 months, I've gotten 7 letters requested, which is unique. We don't usually get very many of those.
Wow,
Letter.
What's that?
Not all of us know those things, but there's still people who don't want to go on the internet, who don't text, and don't have an iPhone. So there are some old-fashioned people. We still have people that I send the monthly newsletter to. I have 100 people that want snail mail. They will not give out an email address.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Anybody here from Sarah? I haven't heard otherwise.
Ooh, you need to do that.
Okay, we'll skip down to, yes.
I think Anita's going to speak to Sarah.
I'm here for Sarah.
Yes,
Oh,
for Sarah.
well,
I
your
just
timing
made it by the
is
skin of my
perfect.
Since I have a bunch of papers, I'm going to use the left turn. You guys are Johnny on the spot. No forgiveness, huh?
Perfect timing.
First I have a brochure. I have 4, so,
I've seen it.
okay.
Thank you.
And I need them back again, because those are just mock-ups. This is something that we worked on with the school system. We all know we have a great school system, but people who come to the area don't necessarily know that, and realtors are forbidden by law to talk about it, but they can hand out materials. So that's what this is for. This was a Main Street idea, it's a Main Street project, and it's a Main Street job that we're doing for the town. The town is not paying for it, Main Street is paying for it. We may try to find one commercial sponsor who would have a logo on the rear page. But I think it is following our Heritage Charm Adventure theme. It has the same type of photography, the same type of layout. The only commercial photo that was used is the one on the cover because they needed something with extreme clarity. This is because of the printer's fastidious behavior, but the rest of it is Simsbury kids doing Simsbury things, and I think the text is great. The text, all of this has been done in conjunction with the school board and has the blessing of the school board. This will be given out to the realtors to give out for free. So it's a way of telling our story without prejudicing the people or having the realtors actually talk about.
Would that be online too?
I think she has a PDF of it. That she could,
I know she does because that's how I first saw it.
right, she could probably create a link to download the PDF.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm sure we could,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I suppose we would put it on our website. If you're done with them, I'll take them back because these are just mock-ups. When I saw it in person, it was a lot more impressive than the PDF. You don't get the size. The size doesn't translate very well into the computer. With the holidays approaching, you may have seen some ads on television done by American Express for a Small Business Saturday. This is something that we have been trying to get onto participation with in a number of years in the past. We are going to hopefully get some advertising out for that, but I'm not so sure. By the way, Sarah is on vacation this week. That's why she's not here. For the second year, we're working with the Masons to bring the Salvation Army toy drive downtown. In years past, it's been over on Route 44 mostly, and we thought, let's get that downtown where we can make some use of it. We've already got agreements with Fitzgerald's, Sarah Burns, and Antonio's, and we're going to get two more. We're going to ask Abigail's, and I can't remember the other one. If you get the Hartford Courant, you get the Hartford Magazine. And there is an article in it this month about Simsbury. It goes on for about 8 pages. I would urge you to look for that online. Of course, it's got a picture of the bridge and a picture of the community gardens here. And then on each one of the pages, like this for instance, the top talks about different facilities we have in town and available, and the bottom has ads from those facilities. So it's some nice coverage, picture of the tree, and a picture of the Talcott Mountain Music Festival. We are applying for a grant, and I don't even have to come and talk to Mary about it because she's here to listen to it. We're applying for a Preservation of Place grant, which comes from the Connecticut Main Street Center, up to a maximum of $10,000. It is not a matching grant. They give you the money. We've done this several times in the past, and what we have decided to apply for, because we ran several ideas past one of the women who works with the Main Street Center, who does not decide on the grants, but she works with them. And she said, okay, that's the one that's most likely to get funded, so that's the one we're going with. And that is fulfilling one of the charrette ideas and creating a pond between Scout Hall and the library. There has been a pond there in the past. It's a kind of a two-part pond, starting up behind 1820 House and coming on down into that little gully that's in there. Not only is this an idea from the charrette to be paired with a pond up here past the apartment buildings before Simsbury Bank on the corner someday in the future, but since there was a pond there in the past, it's a historic feature, and it will also serve to highlight the future Veterans Memorial that is going in at that site. For $10,000, we can get it planned, and then we'll see how much it might cost to actually implement. When the Metro Beast moved over to the 1820 House, and by the way, you need reservations if you're planning to go to eat at Metro Beast. I met Sarah there for lunch shortly after they were open. On a Monday, they were turning people away. They were anxious. We got there early, thank God, so we could give up our table and let somebody else sit down there. That place is hopping. Their business has increased enormously since they moved over there. Great move. So we asked Courtney, what do you guys need? She said, we need a place to have a wedding and to take wedding pictures. Otherwise, they have, at that time, which was, I don't know, a month ago, she said they had 30 special events planned for their basement facilities. The basement where I don't ever want to go to the basement. Well, they have 30 events planned for there. A lot of them are wedding rehearsal dinners and wedding receptions. And if they have a pond in the back that provides that pond in the back, the one that belongs there, and they could put up a gazebo or something like that, they would have that site. And I think a lot of people in the town, since it would be on town property, it would be public and open to the public. I think it would be a really nice amenity. So, I think that's it for now. For a month when she's off for a week. Any questions?
President Jones?
Okay.
No, thank you very much. Item number 4, yes.
Someone said that I should mention state tax credits. Would that be all right if I would do that? That's more me than Sarah. It's more me than Main Street. But state tax credits have I think a strong influence on economic development, which is why I've worked on them. In the rest of my life, one of the things I do quite a bit is a lot of work on historic preservation. Particularly for the last 7 years, I have been president of a statewide lobbying group called Connecticut Preservation Action. And excuse me, I didn't have my coffee yet. Studying with the staff people as to what programs are effective and which are not really being used and people don't really know about them, it became obvious that the tax credits were woefully undersubscribed. We have historic rehab tax credits, 3 different versions. One is for historic homes. In this town, I think there will be a lot of interest in it when it becomes in effect in July 1st, 2015. Historic homes is for a home of less than 4 or less residences, and it's homeowner occupied, and it's mostly for homes, so that's not specifically economic development. The other 2 are for generally rehab, generally conversions for use, adaptive reuse of buildings that are commercial, industrial, institutional, cultural, whatever. It started out by being called a Mills bill because it was aimed at very large, underutilized buildings, and primarily they were converted into housing. That was the original intent by the original proposer in the legislature, and it was very circumscribed as to the previous use of the building and the post-use of the building. This was too restrictive. It was hardly used at all. We had $15 million a year to do this. And of course, once we got rolling in 2007, then we got the rug pulled out from under us in 2008 with the economy. But in the meantime, we decided to open it up wider. And the administration at the time, the previous administration, and the commissioner at the time was not comfortable with eliminating mention of use in the law. So we tried to think of all of the uses that we could throw into it to cover everything, and we missed a big one. We missed one in which a building starts its existence as a house and then is eventually adaptively reused for office space or any other purpose that's commercial, which I have just described thousands, tens of thousands of buildings in the state of Connecticut in historic downtowns. So this was a huge, huge loophole. So now we are correcting that, and I'm working with Connecticut Preservation Action to correct that. We are eliminating all mention of previous use. So this does not become a stumbling block for a historic building. In the future, we hope this law will be passed and that it will encompass buildings like the Ensign Parish House, which has currently applied for state historic rehab tax credits and has not been granted them. They do qualify for federal rehab tax credits, but not for the state. And quite honestly, it's primarily for the downtowns that I've done a lot of this work, and so I'm very disturbed that the interpretation at the State Historic Preservation Office is that these buildings don't qualify because they are certified historic. For instance, that building became institutionally owned in 1960. It has a very, very large addition onto it and that you really can't see until you go around to the back of the house, but it's very large. It has a square footage of over 20,000 square feet. It has a full bank safe in the vault in the basement. It has no kitchen. It is in no way a house. And yet that is how it is being interpreted because that's what it was when it was listed on the register, even though it was not listed on the National Register until 1990. And it was institutional since 1960. So you can see I have a big problem with the way they've been interpreting this, enough of a problem so that I will work to actually change the law to make sure that these buildings can get this kind of a boost economically.
So how many years can they take advantage of a tax abatement? Is it like 3 years?
Well, there is a minimum size requirement for project. So you need a sizable project. So if you do a sizable project on it, you satisfy the state, you get your tax credits, you can do another one.
Okay.
There's no limit on number of projects you can do.
What size is it? Is it dollar?
I think it has to be 25% of the assessed value. The feds is 100% of the language, it's realtor language. 100% of the accrued value. It does not include the purchase price. You cannot pay for purchase of a property, and you can only cover qualified rehabilitation expenditures. In other words, you can't do something like an adjunct garage, for instance. That won't be covered.
Yeah, well, if you can highlight those points, you could email that to me, and I could get it out to all the commissioners, just so that we are aware of it.
Sure. When I get a mock-up, I had a meeting last week with the SHPO office and the staff people and the deputy commissioner. Mm-hmm. They say there is a great deal of interest on the part of the ECD and probably OPM on this, and it may actually be introduced as part of the governor's requests. Good. For the legislature. So, yes.
Excuse me, what is the plan that the acquirer has, do you know, for the Ensign House?
My understanding is that there are two owners, Jack Eno and John Martin, I think his name is, and that they are of two different persuasions as to what the use should be. One wants residential, one wants commercial. I kind of think commercial is going to win. Although they may still put some residences elsewhere on the property that would not be historic, obviously, and not qualify for this tax credit. Personally, I think with its placement, it deserves a commercial use. It continues the, and could be a link to any eventual new commercial development that might take place on the inside Bickford property.
There's a pretty good tract of land on that
I
property,
think
right?
it's 3.5 acres.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing because it goes back in there.
Yes. And they would probably take down the little building that's the drive-through teller. So that would add to the building. I think the one who wants residences wants to put apartments or townhouses back there. And so, yeah, you could get quite a few in there. And why not have a mixed use? That's what we want in the downtown. We want people in the downtown. That's been one of our Main Street goals since the beginning, to get people downtown. So we have to show that there are people living downtown, and it'll break the ice for other people who might want to purchase downtown.
Okay, good, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
On to status of, just an update, if you could, Hiram, the Hartford Land Use Study, the Big Y, Simsbury Meadows.
Sure. The Hartford Land Use Study Committee met actually last night. We talked a little bit about the follow-up to the charrette that we had at Hartford and what the next steps are from that. John McCormick from CBRE was there to discuss their marketing efforts and gave us copies of the brochure. If any of you would like a copy, I have copies. I would only ask that if you really do want them and you're going to use them, feel free. If it's just going to sit on your mantle, then leave it here so we can give it to somebody who might come into the town hall that might be interested in the property. But have those to pass out. There are a number of different sheets that they've added into it, which give you information about the property. And so it's very helpful. We talked a little bit about a number of the different options that could take place at the property. There's been lots of discussion. Initially, people were of the opinion that the property was very difficult to deal with and that it couldn't be reused given the way the building is currently constructed. But there are actually different modules. There are different wings of the building, A, Wing B, and C. There's a data center that used to be there as well. So there are a lot of different potential things that could happen to the building. As you know, if you looked at the final presentation from the charrette, which is online, there are a number of different uses that were looked at, a variety of different uses, 3 main different themes that were looked at as part of the charrette process. The code that's being put together now, the draft form-based code, is coming together now. We will hopefully have that code sort of tightened up and a little bit more fleshed out by the end of December, and hopefully in front of the land use commissions and this commission as well for comment in January. That meets perfectly well with the Hartford's expectation. They were thinking end of the year. If we miss it by 30 days or something, even a project this size, that's not really too bad. But we're very close to putting that together. The trick here is going to be making sure that any potential user that comes in finds the code to be user-friendly. And we're trying to create it so that it is user-friendly, so that somebody comes in and wants to do something there, we can adapt quickly and make the code fit with what they have in mind as well. So there have been lots of discussions with the DOT, DECD. There are a lot of activities. We had Northeast Utilities came to the charrette as well, talked to us a little bit about the power in the building, but the fact that the building has probably 3 times more power to it than would ever be possibly needed. So there's a significant amount of potential there with regard to power usage in the building. If you've ever been in the building, you know it's built extremely solidly, so it's been maintained very well over the years. So it's in really good shape. We're obviously anxious to have somebody come in and use the building, ideally to use the building as it is, unlikely that we're going to get a single user in the building. So the chances are that it's probably going to be multi-tenanted at best, and hopefully remain in place rather than be demolished. So that's what we're hopeful for. We have an indication that the Hartford doesn't have a specific time frame, but our general feeling is, and just sort of my general guess is that we probably got about 24 months to figure this out and find a new user. CBRE is working hard to identify and contact and work with potential users of the site. So we're working hard on just about all the aspects that we can think of. We've also written to, and Mary talked last night about the efforts to try to coordinate this with state DECD, and we've asked them for a number of things. They haven't responded directly yet to our letter, but we'd like to work with them to move this process forward, to get them actively involved in the process so that they can be of help to us, the realtor, and any potential user as well. So working away on that, and can answer whatever questions you might have.
Could you briefly describe the concept of site ready from the state?
Certified site.
Certified site?
There's a concept in most of the rest of the world, except Connecticut. It's called certified sites, and developers come in and they will talk to commercial realtors about, do you have certified sites, or give me a list of your certified sites. That is sites that have already been sort of pre-qualified. Another term that's often used is shovel-ready, which is a little different. That's a little bit more mechanical. But certified sites are sites that have been through preliminary DOT process. They've been through DECD process. OPM has probably been involved. Local governments have been involved. So that there's a whole series of items on a checklist that would allow a site to be qualified as a certified site. So large developers come in, whether it's General Motors or Ford or General Foods or whatever it happens to be, Trader Joe's, they would ask, are there certified sites in town? Connecticut doesn't have such a program. And so one of our suggestions to DECD was that we use this as a model to create a certified site program for the state of Connecticut. We don't have a response from them yet. We're hopeful. We don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to do that. We're happy to lead the way along those lines and you do that. The consultant gateway planning has been very helpful in showing us examples from other states and how they do that, what's involved with that. So we're anxious to sort of move that forward as well. And hopefully within a week or so, we'll have an answer back from DECD as to whether they're going to partner with us in moving that forward. Quite frankly, I don't know if they decide that they don't want to. I don't know why we couldn't do a lot of that work ourselves, but it would be great to have it be the model for the state program and sort of kick that effort off. So.
Hiram, could we get copies of the samples that Gateway has provided you with regard to what other states have done, what the checklist looks like, what they have used in other states as the qualifying features?
Sure. Yep, I can get that to you.
Any other questions, comments? Anything new on Big Y?
My understanding is that the issues that were previously holding up onset of construction are almost resolved, that landowners up there have, I believe, come to some sort of an agreement. My understanding from talking briefly with Rick Wagner is that it should close by the end of the year. They'll start construction in the spring. Unfortunately, it took longer than it should have, but my understanding is that the issues that were previously being discussed between the various landowners with regard to access and so on have been resolved. And so hopefully that'll close by the end of the year.
From my memory, and I hope you can help me here, the zoning approval process used to be, I think, and I'm not sure what it is now, that's what I'm interested in knowing, when an approval is granted on a project, that there's a one-year release, if you will, by zoning to put a shovel into the ground and start the project. At the end of 1 year, they had like an automatic extension that they would grant. At the end of 2 years, under the old information I have in my head, was that they had to come back and make their case again. I don't mean a full process, but just come back into zoning. Is that still how it works?
5 years, Sam.
It's 5 years.
Yeah. The commission a couple of years ago changed that regulation. That was becoming an issue because the economy was the way it was. Home builders obviously were very concerned about this as well, and they actually had legislation passed that said that any permits that were granted were extended. Typically, they were 5 years under state law. They were extended to 9. In some cases, they could be extended to 14. But right now, our regulations talk about 5 years.
So that's 5 years from the date of first filing of the application?
Date of approval, 5 years from
Date of approval?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's been like 15, 16 months, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact date, but
September, wasn't it, I think?
we're still
2012 or something. They've still got plenty of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And activities have actually been going on, even though they haven't broken ground. There's been lots of activity with regard to discussions back and forth, meetings with town attorney and so on. So they've actually pursuing the moving forward, so.
Ain't done till it's done, though, right?
That's right, no question.
Till they close, it's in a state of limbo.
Yeah. Well, I think that things are headed in the right direction. We're encouraged. I can tell you that we're talking to a lot of people that are around there. As you may know, the Dorset Crossing, the apartments that were proposed at Dorset Crossing were approved by the Zoning Commission just a week or so ago. Met with their developer yesterday, and they're getting anxious to move forward. There's 168 units in that particular development. That'll be done in phases over time, probably 3 phases, along with the clubhouse and pool and so on. The specialty needs housing that will have housing for the MS folks is ready to go forward. I think they're going to close today or tomorrow. They're anxious to move forward as well.
I asked you the question on that at the last meeting, and I took a ride by there yesterday. It's amazing to me how close, where they're preparing the site for the special needs housing is, to those humongous transformers. Now, I know we talk, it's safe and all that good stuff, but I'll tell you, I'd never put my grandchildren up there.
Yeah, I think there's differences of opinion from people about effects of EMFs on young people versus older folks.
Well, the older folks, it doesn't matter so much. We're checking out at some point, but you don't want the kids in there, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I know there won't be kids basically in those apartments, I don't think, but you can almost reach out, I'm sure, from that apartment and touch those transformers.
There's actually, I mean, they're big. There's no question about the fact that they're big. There's also a significant planting program that
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the magnetic resonance.
Yeah, well, I
you can
think
plant all you want, it doesn't affect that.
yeah, the distance of those lines above the ground has a lot to do with the distance from the people. And EMFs are inversely proportional to the distance above the ground. So they've actually looked at it. They're aware of it. They know about it. So
Who's they?
the people that own that property, the special needs housing people, and the apartments across the street.
Well, and the land use commission's approved it.
Take a look at it.
Yeah, I talked to one of the people on the Land Use Commission, and they thought that they had approved before they realized how big this transformer bank was going to be. Now, that was the
I don't
comment.
know.
I don't know either.
No, I'm not a commission.
I just know that
it's a good question, Dave, and
it's
it's something that the commission should have
You
taken
know,
into account.
as I said to Hiram at the last meeting we had here, the town has the deep pockets, so God forbid if anything should occur, the town will get drawn into it, you know? I don't know what our lawyers say on it, but I just think it's an issue that, we've already had some minor questions about high-tension lines going through when you go up by Cobb Way up there, you know? So some people are very sensitive to this, and I know that when you talk to the electrical engineers and people in that there's a real divergence of opinion on the danger or the hazards of those things, you know? Transformers, that is.
Yeah.
You can probably speak to that from a legal standpoint, not legal from a realtor's position.
Well,
Some people are concerned about it, some people aren't.
yeah, it depends on where, some people are concerned about being on a busy road. It's
Yeah.
really
I mean, some of it's
a function of what they're used to and the studies that they read.
Any other questions on that? Didn't we submit an application or a grant proposal for Simsbury Meadows to?
And it was about $163,000, and we don't have any indication that it was approved. It's probably not. We haven't heard a thing. I've tried 2 or 3 times to talk to them about whether it was approved or not. I keep getting referred to their website, and the projects that were approved are listed there. Ours is not among them. So my view is that what we're going to have to do in the future is some of that work ourselves. I talked a little bit to Tom Roy about the fact that, as town workforces and maybe some of the scouts maybe have some opportunity to clear a significant portion of some of that trail system. that would be a great thing to do for very low cost. There's one portion of that system as the trail would come back in toward the Simsbury property, for example, where it's extremely wet. And that's where the bulk of the money really was, in
Yeah.
terms of culverts and proper drainage that we need to go through there. And that's just going to have to wait until we're able to scrape up some funding, whether it's through another grant or whether it's through some of our own funding. But we're going to continue working on that.
Let's say if the town were to approach that at a minimum, have we worked up any numbers on what it would cost the town to do culverts and that kind of stuff? I mean, the real basic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, total was $163,000. That was pretty much bare bones.
That was bare bones.
Yep.
We haven't cost out how much we could do it for in-house.
Correct.
So we could come back with a revised.
Yeah, okay. Because I think it would be really advantageous to the town to have a trail system back there that people could use.
You had mentioned the scouts, and Anita, I wanted to say something about the scouts regarding the ponds. I don't know I think it would be a great idea if the town met with the scout leaders here and came up with Eagle
We do that all the time.
project, and I know, because I've got an
Yeah.
Eagle Scout.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
But
and
if we
Jerry-
kind of have a book of, here's some projects that can be.
Well, we did talk about that, and leaders said that they prefer to tailor it to the individual scouts. So we have a list of scout projects that scouts can do if they're interested, and they meet with us.
Okay.
It's all coordinated through Jerry Toner. A lot
Yep.
of the projects need to go through land use. Some of those need to go through land use, such as signage and things. So and we also are working to put that on our website that Eagle Scouts can contact us. But the Eagle Scouts know what the projects are, and they work very closely with us.
Because the pond might be a great opportunity to help
We've had
them.
conversations. It's a little bigger project.
It's bigger than one project,
But there are
but-
pieces that they could, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have a tremendous number of great scouts, and
Yep, I've got one.
have a great relationship with the scouts. Yeah, congratulations.
Since Rick's here, would anybody mind if we skipped over item 5 and went to 6 so that we could discuss the website? And Chris is going to walk us through some of her thoughts on that.
Okay. I've got a handout. I did some screenshots of the Ridgefield EDC website, which I had sent a link out to you guys. So I don't know if, and forgive me, they're stapled in the wrong corner. It was really late last night. But
I love it.
when looking at we draw a lot of parallels to Ridgefield, demographically and economically. They have a link on their town website where you basically click on it where it says open to business, and it brings you to a whole separate website just for EDC. And in that website, not only it has the demographics of Ridgefield, but it does have a link to CERC. So it's got a link to available properties in town that as a business you can search. It has information about the commission. It has information about resources, zoning regulations. It's really one-stop shopping. And it has a phone number and a contact area where you can contact the planning department and get additional information that might not be on the website. Originally when we started talking about this a year ago, it was really just creating links on our website to make us more business-friendly on the EDC piece of it. What Ridgefield to me is very much like Simsbury in terms of having the Main Street area, and then it has a separate area. It really has two distinct commercial areas. Just wanted to put out there if this is something that we can try to get towards, of having a separate site for EDC. So we are business friendly, and we, developers know that we're open for business, and if we produce a website, create a website like this, we have the ability to market that website when we're sending out marketing materials, to potential developers, and it's really one place to go for all the information, and not just necessarily creating links within our town piece of it. So I don't know, what our server's capable of or what our website's capable of, but I don't know if any of you had a chance to look through the website when I sent the link out, but it's really I think, a pretty robust website in terms of being very business-friendly. And the mere fact that you can link to, you can search properties, you can really draw a polygon in an area of town and search what the availability of properties are. And because we're already members of CERC, I believe, there shouldn't be, we should have the ability to do that. I don't know what your thoughts are on.
Well, I've always thought that our EDC website, having looked at a lot of websites, as we all have, that is a less than optimal in terms of just visual candy. And I think if the town really wants to put their best foot forward, this is in terms of saying we're business friendly and there's opportunities here, this is a place where you could put it, because it's available for anybody to look at, either in depth or just scanning, and we have not done that. And I think we should attempt to do a much better job of making it interesting to read, interesting to use to get to where you want to go commercially, residentially, any number of things we can use as this sort of the portal for the town looking at economic development.
Well, and what I loved about the Ridgefields website is literally, it was like a door. You were open for business, you clicked on it, and it brought you to this whole other website that has its own web address. So, we could send out to developers, as part of a marketing package, a link to that website, and it was, Ridgefield Economic Development was the website. Why couldn't we be Simsbury Economic Development? And create this whole separate layer to our town website where we became business friendly, and we let them know exactly what properties were available, how to get through the commissions. It was the links to the charrettes and the studies and the zoning, form-based code, and, what you need to do in terms of, permits and who you need to contact. And it had a contact us page that you filled out, and it got sent to, the appropriate department. They've got a phone number, and it was very user-friendly. And you really didn't have to, you left their website really knowing what you needed to do in order to do business and what was available in town to do it.
And just to comment, thank you, Chris. We've been talking about this at the Technology Task Force, and so looking at a lot of different things. And what I'd offer is, if this is something the Economic Development Commission wants to do, and we'd love to have you do it, a lot of the boards and commissions do a better job on their pages than others. We could work with you to find out what the capacity is and what the cost would be to change it and what you'd like to add. So absolutely, it's something that the Technology Task Force is already working on, but we could expedite it if the Economic Development Commission wants to move more quickly. So, I would suggest that you get a couple folks who are interested in working with Hiram. Obviously, Hiram can't design the website, but we can work with you to think. Is that okay? Am I saying that correctly?
Absolutely.
All right. And Rick is our technology guy. He's not a software. He's not a he's
Developer.
Not the developer. So do we have a webmaster? No. And so, but we have the resources to
So what we would need to know, if somebody was to look at this,
So what we, yeah.
what does this cost to build,
Well,
to
it doesn't. I think we
maintain?
should start from the EDC should get a consensus and maybe a subcommittee to work with staff and the Technology Task Force. I think this is a good start because you showed us what you think you want it to look like, but obviously there are many, many more sites to look at, and so you'd want to shop around a little bit to come up with a consensus of what you want the site to entail. So, we could rush if everybody. You only looked at one site.
Well, I looked at this site because it's a community so similar to ours.
Let's say this is a good template of what you want. Let's say that you've looked at a number of sites, you come back to Ridgefield, then, we could certainly come back to you with what would be the requirements to get our site to look like that.
Because I think go ahead.
I agree with Mary. Look at some other sites. I went on here when you sent it around, and I didn't see the most important thing a developer is going to want to see, and that is the mapping, the GIS, the zones. If you go to, I think it's one that I was on recently, Windsor, If
But
I
we
go
don't
to-
have that capability here.
Well,
We talked about that at some
Right.
point. I was going to ask the
Yeah,
question
and
where we
that's-
stand with that.
And I don't want to get into a whole technology
Right.
discussion here, but
No.
the technology task force is doing exactly what you
Right.
are doing here in a broader sense. They have done focus groups. Pam Lacko chairs it. She has done focus groups on how our site is usable, what the technology barriers are to getting it. So we have a lot of that back office
Yeah, the mapping-
conversation. I think what we need from you is you tell us what you want to see the site look like, what it should include, and then we will give you a summary of how to get there, what it would cost.
We talked about
what-
it some time ago, and I think I might have mentioned one of the sites, but just recently on the Windsor one, I can go there, and if I have a meeting with zoning that night, I can go to that site, I can print out the maps, I know exactly the area, the description, the zone, sewer hookups, I know everything available, the regulations for that particular site, and I can print them out in 15, 20 minutes. And that's what developers really want. They want to know that, oh, this site's, the Hartford's for sale. Oh, let me go on. The first thing they're going to do is go on the site, and they're going to say, okay, what zone's it in? What's that zone allow? What's around there? And some even show, I don't think Windsor's it, but some actually show the business side of things, what other competitors and things are around. The GIS systems allow that to happen. I don't think they have it, but I'm not positive. But you can gather so much information that the developer wants. The others are nice, and CERC can add that page pretty easily with available properties, but it's that data that we have here. The old-fashioned way is to come into town hall and do it now.
And you're
now
exactly right, Lou. You know, you
Right.
can do anything with money.
Right, exactly.
So
It is
the
money.
GIS systems that we have, we use internally. We don't provide them to the public, primarily because we don't have the capacity. We don't have a staff person assigned to GIS to update it. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to put information out to the public that's not 100% updated and accurate.
Right.
In towns that we've looked at, and the technology department working with Rick is also looking at the GIS system, it's a big investment and you need to hire a full-time staff person. So, you know, but again, I think a wish list of what you'd like to see the website include, and some samples of towns, you know, that you like. We can give you a rundown very quickly of what is doable without cost, what includes some costs, and what would entail additional staff and additional cost. We're already working on that in a broader sense, so once the technology task force is done with their work, we'll share that with you. And certainly, once you have a blueprint of what sites you'd like and a list of kind of what you want to include, we could certainly have it run through the technology task force, which is doing a great job sort of implementing.
Do we have the capability of creating a whole separate?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just, and this is, it's pretty simple actually. Actually, Ridgefield is on their print. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not being hosted by virtual town halls like we are. Just looking at it real quick, if the pages were printed out properly, I can tell that for sure. But the tabs on top, Chris, what you're talking about, most of these are all internal links, self-developed, self-maintained.
Right.
There's one external one that goes out to CERC.
Right.
But all that other stuff is pretty much internal, which is within your template of the website. Anything you see here, we could do. Or not, I shouldn't say we could do, has to be directed, just like Mary was saying, in your discussions going. That has to happen. But it's pretty simple, straightforward. You're talking about now going outside the website itself, simsbury-ct.gov. You could do that as well. It's going to cost you an annual fee of, depends who you get, for that domain name. Example in point is Simsbury Housing Authority. They wanted their domain name simsburyha.org, but they didn't have the facilities to sponsor that server and host it. So what we did is they bought that, and now when you search for Simsbury Housing Authority, it actually comes within our website, and they have the print of our website, and they maintain that. So you could do that pretty much at no cost.
Well, yeah, you just go out to GoDaddy and buy.
Right. So, I mean, the cost there is really nothing to get your domain name. It really comes back to what your discussion's all about, is just maintain the page and how you're going to structure it.
I think
Look at content.
Exactly. I think the difference is, you know, some commissions just have staff do the website and just put the basic information. Other commissions, like the library board, gets very involved in what their website should look like and work very closely with staff about what it wants to be. So I think this is a great time to have the Economic Development Commission involved in what, maybe making it more user-friendly, and we can help supply the tools to do that.
I mean, I just think we have such great information. We just need to, and we're spending all this money on studies and, changing codes and trying to attract businesses. We need to make it easy for them to find the information and make it easier for us to potentially market the town to developers.
Yeah, all we need is a subcommittee of the EDC to work with us so that we can build a consensus of what you want the site to look like. That's really where it has to start.
So if we go this route, then how does it, like a website like this, get maintained? How does it stay fresh and updated? Do we do that? Do we have a meeting every?
Well, what you have to do is, depending on what your site looks like, then we have a conversation about what it would require to be maintained. So if it's just a question of putting new information on, Hiram could also communicate back to you what staff would be able to do it, and if we don't have the staff to do it, we'll tell you what the requirement would be. So I think we start with a subcommittee to work with us so that we can have a consensus to bring back to EDC what the site should look like. Rick can very easily work on what it would cost to do that and what could be done short-term, long-term. It would be done very quickly. And then you'd have it in time for budget. So if you did want to move forward with some things that did cost, be able to include that in next year's budget for the Board of Selectmen to consider.
And for you to maintain that, you could do it yourselves. I mean,
Right.
our model is pretty much distributed. So we would just give you authority for your page, and you drive that page yourself.
And again, that's exactly how it's done. Every commission, the Tourism Commission maintains their own webpage with volunteers. So again, it's as good as the people that we have who want to be involved, right? So, some staff maintain each page, some commission volunteers that want more information on than we can provide. So we can work with you on that.
So if commissioners could take a look at this and put it on the agenda for next month, if we allocate some time as to what people would like to see on a EDC website, make it more robust.
I would like to propose that if you want to send me your thoughts, I can compile it into how we would envision different pages to look with what each of you thinks should be on particular pages.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got something to look at. I'm just pretty passionate about the technology and really wanting to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward, so I'd like to get going on it sooner than later, because I don't want to miss an opportunity, for the town.
The control that you do have is your webpage, but another thing to look at is that the town's already dedicated a slider, and these are these vertical bars that are at the top of the page, and one of them is strictly just business. And if you look at that, and I looked at it this morning, it's pretty much divided up to what economic development is, as well as planning and zoning. That whole page itself could be rethought under your supervision with the guidance of the task force as well. So it starts really at that first click. You were leading to that, Chris. So it's like, you click once, it's a friendly, where am I going now kind of thing.
Well, and I think we have to look at it not from the standpoint of the town and how we, who are familiar with the area, know how to use it, but we have to look at it from an outsider coming in and making it very user-friendly and welcoming and, obviously professional, but someone would want to, come and do business with us because we've made it easy.
Right. No, I agree.
And I would say moving it along a little more quickly might be a benefit, since we will have a lot of people, hopefully, looking into Simsbury, because it's going to be marketed with the Hartford property. So moving that page along, I'm sure there are going to be brokers and site selectors saying, Simsbury, well, I heard John McCormick talk about it, let me go check.
Well,
So,
again, we're here, so we have if you want a subcommittee to work in between now and your next meeting.
Who would like to be on a subcommittee I would, between now and our next meeting, to look and talk and put those together. Anybody
I won't be
else?
on it, but I'll get you the information that I can for it.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody
That'll
else
be
has any
pretty easy.
ideas, shoot them to us and we'll incorporate those and then we'll report back on,
I think you should probably have a quick conversation with Pam Lackow, because I think a lot of things that you're talking about, they've already talked about. So we can help facilitate that.
If you could just copy me in too, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll have.
Well, I mean, what you want to see on it, from your standpoint, is,
Yeah, there are a lot of things. For example, I've been through a ton of this stuff before. The CERC thing is, we worked with CERC before. We had put listings on, and there's big disputes about whether LoopNet, is better than CERC, and some people don't use CERC, and a lot of the commercial realtors don't like CERC. And, I mean, there's tons of stuff back and forth, so there's a lot of things that we can discuss as part of this.
And that's an important point, because when we went on that initiative, that was a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
When we started putting CERC up there,
Yeah.
is that their site was worse. We would link the properties, and there was no properties there anymore, or they would be transferred.
I know LoopNet is a little bit more popular.
So it goes back to the point of content management, is where, okay, someone has to check that site almost every day or every other day.
Yeah.
Because that is a reflection of the town,
Oh,
as well as
absolutely.
EDC.
yeah, that's one of the questions I had. Once you put this together, then how do you maintain it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Who
just
made
time
it?
and money.
Time and money, you can do anything you want.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, I'm going to go back to item number 5, allocating the EDC budget. I thought I'd just throw out for conversation and thought as to, before we head into, we typically allocate most of our budget, obviously, to Simsbury Main Street partnerships, and we have a little bit of money for outside activities and the like. Would the commission want to contemplate entertaining other uses of money if people can make the case, or organizations can make the case to us, at least 2 months before we set our budget, as to allocate any money to an activity, whether it's recreational or cultural or otherwise, that we think would add value to the commercial tax base, and let them compete along with other people before we set our budget in January.
What do you mean? Could you give me an example of what you're...
Somebody comes to us and says, we want to put on a particular, let's say, show or celebration. We would like to request $4,000 from you to do so, 8 months later. Is that something that EDC should contemplate budgeting for? If they come to us at least 2 months before we set our budget to say, yeah, that's something that has merit, we will put that in our budget for that particular activity, or is this something we don't want to consider as a commission, that things that come, it may be even a study, that may be something that we would say we would not take some part of our budget and allocate it to an activity that would be beneficial commercially to the town.
Are you trying to get them, I mean, one of the concerns I've always had in this whole area when we go to the budgeting and set it up is Main Street for a long time has kind of commandeered or been the big acquirer of quite a hunk of our budget. And sometimes it goes back over to the Board of Selectmen, some part is taken there, sometimes it's here, etc. Is this to bring other people in to compete against Main Street?
No, it's
Which I think might be a good idea,
not to
don't get me
compete
wrong.
against, but to compete for. That, we have, for instance, if we have a website that said, you could say, if you have some activity you wish to bring to town, whether it's a one-time event or something else, EDC is willing to consider your proposal if it meets, let's say, these criteria, these 5 criteria or something like that, as something that we may be willing to fund.
Yeah, but it comes from the pot of money that the EDC is going to get approved
Right.
in our budget. So obviously, if we do that, then something else is going to have to give, right?
Correct.
Which is okay, don't get me, I'm not
I'm just
arguing
saying,
one way or the other.
what we're saying is we have this pot of money, we wish to employ it in the most efficient way to speed on economic development or commercial activity in town. And we have largely allocated that to one source, do we wish to at least have a conversation or be open to other activities that may be proposed to us and ask for funding?
Have you had any inquiries about that? Or has that come up? Do you have anything in mind?
No, I don't.
Would,
Because I'm not sure where that would come from or how that would.
Would it be more beneficial?
They come up to this point.
would it be more beneficial to use potential funds to have, I think you referred to a developer showcase or something where we're actively marketing the town to potential developers for all sorts of properties, not
Well, I
just
think-
the Hartford
But
property.
we have allocated money to marketing before.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to the budget and what EDC requests, whether we get it or not, should be based on what EDC's goals are for the following year. If it's going to be a marketing type of goal, then we need to request dollars and go with a plan as to why we need these dollars and what we plan on doing with it. We think a developer showcase at this time, because of all these things, is a good thing to do. We need this amount of money to do that, or brochure material, or website. I think we should develop our own ideas and then move forward. I'm not sure I want to kind of become a bank of money and let people come in and request it of us. I don't think that's what we're really here for. If website's important to us, we go to the town and say, we're going to do A, B, and C, we'd like X amount. They may give it to us, they may not, but I think it has to be what we think is important. It could be anything. It could be Simsbury Meadow, doing trails or developing a study for that area that's important to the downtown. Whatever our goals may be, I think we have to base it.
Just to offer some assistance, I think Boo's on the right track, because I think that what you want to do is put a list of things that you want to accomplish, and then you can bid out those things. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, and we can certainly work with you. The Hartford and the Charette came up with a list of things that they suggested, and if you want those again, we can give you a list of those things. So I appreciate that you're starting early. It's only November, but I think this is going to be a very difficult budget. And I think we haven't had our joint meeting, but I can imagine that there won't be a lot of room to increase the budgets anywhere. So I think getting started early is a good suggestion, and we would just offer our help in doing that. So whether you need information on how we can put together what the documents suggested and the marketing plan suggested, so go back and pull out those action next steps. And then if you need to bid anything or do anything, we can offer that as well.
And the other thing is, if we decide what is important to us, there may be another board or commission that agrees with us. There may be something that we want to accomplish that zoning may think is important, and we then go as a group, the two boards and commissions, and talk to Hiram and say, you know what, we really, as far as these boards, we think this is really important. And then we go to the board, and they may have to reallocate, because there's not going to be a lot of extra money, so it's going to come from somewhere, as Dave says. So we may kind of decide what we want to do, then see how it fits in with other goals or other boards and commissions' desires, and then put forward our best foot and see what we can gather. Okay.
Just like I mentioned too, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, if you didn't see Peter Fairweather's final presentation to the Board of Selectmen, I think on October 16th he made that. That's on that SimsburyStrategy.com website. But take a look at that. There's a ton of things in there. Not only what he found in this particular phase 1 of his study, but the next steps he outlines them, as well as costs as well. So if you think that was good, there are a lot of specific things that are in there that you might want to take a look at too before we start talking about it.
And he did, I think you mentioned it at the Government Affairs, look at a little more regionally within Hartford, and then, as I always bring up every year, the Metro Hartford Alliance is something that I think is mentioned in there. So that may be a goal of ours. So.
Okay. We have the new proposed meeting schedule. Did everybody print that out for next year? Okay. Do we have any comments on the schedule? Do we have a motion to approve the new meeting schedule?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I have here a EDC commissioners are being invited to celebrate Connecticut registration November 26th. This will be, I believe, at the Bushnell. It's EDC commissioners, other people from the state, and I guess the development community will be showing up. If you'd like to go, I think we have a little bit of money in our budget to go. I think it's $95 per person. I'm going. I've already signed up. So if you need any other information, I have it here.
What is it? It's
It's sort of a statewide get-together of EDC, economic development people, state, local, and other people. It's a bit of a schmooze, meet people, see what's going on kind of thing. So if anybody would like to go, the town will reimburse you.
It's a night meeting, right?
Yeah, it's 5:30. It's like 5:30 to 8 type of thing at the Bushnell, as I recall. So if anybody would like to go, let me know or sign up, and we'll make sure you get reimbursed. Is there any other old business? Yes.
I just want to share with you, tourism just completed a farm brochure. We'll be releasing this, and it's to promote agribusiness in Simsbury. I think it would be certainly interesting for have them come in, talk with them, and see if it's something you want to help promote. Agribusiness is a big deal and big money, and it's growing business, and certainly this is a great brochure to kick it off.
Who would be our contact on this?
Is Liz Banko still here?
Well, she works here, but she...
She still owns a house here.
Yeah, okay. You can call Liz Banko.
She currently still does.
Who's a neighbor of yours.
Yes.
She's still here, so.
She's getting used to city life. It's her own green acres.
Ridiculous.
Potted plants. Any other issues, old business you'd like to talk about? Anything new?
with regard to the Hartford and some of the things that they're planning through their broker. They may have some events that were discussed in December. I don't know when they're going to be, if they come before our meeting or anything, but I would just ask Hiram that. I think some EDC people it may be a benefit for them to be there at some of those. They may have a showcase. And I think you mentioned showcase.
Case tour, we're trying to schedule.
Right, yeah,
John is supposed to schedule
exactly.
that.
So
Yeah,
what-
we'll notify all the members, so if the members want to come, we'd love to have you.
Will that be a one-time event or a multiple event?
Oh, I think there'll be multiple.
Okay. And that's for going to be commercial people?
Yeah, we're working with them now, working with the EDC. There'll be a number of events, but we'll...
On the Hartford, talking to a couple of guys I know that work down there, and I can't remember whether it came out when John McCormick made his presentation or not, but I understand that their tower building downtown, there's going to be a big renovation in that, and as a result, there's going to be 300 to 500 people that'll be moved out here, because they'll use this as the buffer to it, and then that'll tie in with the timing about when this thing finally goes cold, as far as they're concerned.
They've already moved the employees. They're already here.
Okay.
Yes, that's true.
So it's going to be in and out type of thing, yeah?
Exactly. So they actually have more employees there now than they had.
But that's roughly a year, I think, that they're talking about, because they got about a year left on what they've told the town, right?
Yes.
You know, what their plan is.
Yes.
Okay.
Once they get here, we're going to actually we're going to destroy Route 10 so they can't leave.
Put up the gates.
And then you can sell them houses.
I know how to accomplish that, Hiram. Cut the mill rate.
But we can cut the mill rate.
Cut it right to,
We can do that.
that'll do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other
You may not like it.
old business or new business you'd like to discuss? Okay, I'll work with you on the website. We'll put
Okay.
together a little mini committee.
But the mill rate, no GIS system, that's for sure.
Get your budget ready.
If we have nothing else, we have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Thank you very much. Just go to the town website to EDC, and you'll see it'll be posted.